All right, guys, On the Fly is back again, and tonight's the night. It's going to be all right. We're going to be talking about Rod Stewart, our top 10 favorite Rod Stewart songs. And with me tonight, one of my fellow loudcasters. And I'm telling you guys, you get two loudcasters together, you might be in trouble. Mr. Jason Worden. Is that how you say it? Worden?
Warden. It's like the WA,
Warden.
but it's
He's the
Warden. Yeah.
warden. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's like the warden of the Loudcasters. Then, look at him displaying that Cowboys hat proudly too. Uh, yeah. Yeah. We'll. Okay. I won't hold that against you too much. As long as it ain't a Patriot or a Raven. And Thomas Zeus, if you're listening, I said it. As long as it's not a Patriot. All
Hey,
right.
Sonny Pooney's a Cowboy fan. Sonny Pooney's a Cowboy fan.
That's right.
Yeah, so.
We'll get Jericho on here to talk about Sonny Pooney. Uh, no, we actually came across each other in the Loudcast room. If you don't know what we're talking about, guys, there's a podcast that we both follow, the Shout Out Loudcasters with Tom and Zeus. It's a Kiss podcast. Everybody knows I am a big time Kiss fan, and I'm sure Mr. Warden is too. But yeah, we come across each other. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. We came across each other through posts in the room, and we got to talking back and forth. And, I like people that like music. And, I'm going out a little bit. But I asked him if there's any music that he knew a lot about, that he was a big fan of. And one of the guys he mentioned was Rod Stewart. And I'm not the biggest Rod Stewart fan, but, I enjoy Rod Stewart's music. And tonight, like I said, our top 10 favorite Rod Stewart songs. And you guys out there, if you want to comment, you want to give us your thoughts on each pick, or if you want to give us your list, feel free to. I'm sure there will be some disagreements. Like I say before, every time we do a top 10 list, this is our list. This doesn't mean it's in stone that it's the greatest top 10 Rod Stewart songs. It's just what we think are the top 10 Rod Stewart songs. So, Jason, since you're the guest, I want you to tell us what's your first memory of getting into Rod Stewart? Your first thoughts?
Well, I would had to be my back in the 70s. My mom always listened to like rock and roll, like Stones, Rod Stewart. Wasn't a Kiss fan. Most girls usually aren't, except for Paul. And she always had Rod Stewart, and just like the "Do You Think I'm Sexy?" And I just remember that album cover with him holding that girl. Blondes Have More Fun, and thinking, God, that's the dude. That's the rock star I want to be, And of course, you hear the disparaging stuff about him and all that stuff, but he's laughing to the bank because he's having more fun, like
Oh yeah,
and just from there and I think the kind of that when I got into that mid 70s stuff, it was like Rod was in his like Rolling Stones kind of harder edge, Hot Legs and all that stuff. That's kind of, and I love the Stones, and after Kiss, it's probably my second favorite band. And it's just rock and roll. And then in the 80s, when he came out with Infatuation and all that stuff, the great hair as always, I just love that stuff. I mean, and I still listen to him to this day. I actually got tickets to go see him in Houston in July. He's playing with Cheap Trick. So I got those a couple days ago. Yeah, he's definitely slowed down a bit, but yeah, haven't we all?
Well, he's got to be in his 70s now, right?
I think he's like 73 or 74. Still got more hair than I did.
Time to slow down a little bit. Well, he's probably had some help with that. I would probably, but
some guys have all the luck. I guess.
Some guys have all the luck. Yeah, exactly. How many times are we going to throw a song in on a comment? But believe it or not, and actually we did a Black Sabbath episode last week, and I'll tell you the same thing that I told the guest on the Black Sabbath. My mom was a diehard Elvis fan, but she supported. I was into Kiss at an early age, like 5 years old, and she supported that whole thing. But Rod Stewart comes on, and my mom, like, do you think I'm sexy? That's not something you need to be listening to. That's not. But yet, you let me listen to a guy that breathes fire and spits blood and talks about plaster caster and songs
Take
like
Me.
that. And yeah, but you let me listen to that. But Rod Stewart thinks about, do you think I'm sexy? And I'm not supposed to listen to that. But you know, I remember listening to him a little bit at that age, but the older I got, I guess back in when he hit his, I guess, second wind in the '80s and started getting, with Young Turks and then he Passion and then like Downtown Train and all that. I started listening to him. I actually had my best friend in high school. His mom was a diehard Rod Stewart fan, loved him to death, and every time she would drive us somewhere, Rod Stewart would be on, and I'd be like, will you please with the Rod Stewart stuff? I used to give her a hard time about it, but I was, I didn't mind his music at all, but I just had to give her a hard time about it. She is a diehard Rod Stewart fan. I know she still is, but the older stuff I got into later on, like I said, when I went back and like we say, you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have Apple Music, Spotify. You had to go out and buy stuff to listen to the old stuff. And I went back and I think I bought one of his greatest hits that had a lot of the older stuff in it, and that's how I got stuff like Maggie May and Do You Think I'm Sexy, stuff like that. But my list is going to be, and I'm looking at it right here. It's probably going to be a mixture. It's probably about 60-40 one way, and I'm not going to say which way, but it's a good mixture of old and the newer stuff. But anyway, you guys, like I said, we've got a few people in here listening right now. If you want to make a comment or ask a question or say a comment about Rod Stewart or what your favorite 10 are, feel free to put it up there, and we'll mention it on the show. All right, since you're the guest, we're going to let you start it off. What's your number 10?
All right, my number 10 is going back to 1990. It's got the bagpipes, Rhythm of My Heart off Vagabond Heart.
Rhythm of My Heart. That is on my honorable mentions there. It was I always do this when I do my list. I always get in here and I'll finalize it like the day of, like that morning or something. And when I'm in here getting everything set up, I was looking at it again and listening to some stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I need to switch it around. So I had to move some stuff out. But Rhythm of My Heart could have been on my list, but it's an honorable mention. My number 10 is a collaboration. And this is from a soundtrack, from the Three Musketeers soundtrack. Bryan Adams, Sting, Rod Stewart, All for Love.
Yes.
I mean, you had three guys at that time that were on fire. I mean, Bryan Adams had hit after hit. Sting, of course, going in with his solo career after leaving the Police. And then Rod Stewart. And just a great ballad. The movie was nowhere near as good as the song. So
yeah, but it had Rebecca De Mornay in it.
It wasn't like Brian. Oh yeah, well that was good, but he didn't strike gold. Bryan Adams didn't strike gold again like he did with Robin Hood with this one. Yeah. But All for Love, great ballad. Three great guys singing, three great singers. But All for Love is my number 10.
That was a big hit. I think it was like a number 1 hit.
What you got at number 9?
That was
it was a big. It was a big.
It was like number 1 hit, I believe. Yeah. My number 9, going back to the 70s, You Wear It Well. And this song it always reminds me of when I was in actually Memphis going to Graceland back in the late 90s. And that song came on, and there's a part on there where he says, Madame Onassis got nothing on you. That's about Jackie Kennedy. And that was like the same. And I knew that song, and it just hit me. Oh, wow. She had just passed away. So I'll always remember. I mean, of course, I knew that song before, but that was always a memory I have of that song. And that song was just, I mean, it's just a great, I mean, I guess you could call it a ballad, but it's just, it's just a great song from start to finish.
Yeah, It definitely is. That's another one I had. I've got about 20. I always try to get like 25 songs to pick from, and that's over here on that list too. So
Your
no
honorable mention?
repeats so far. We're
Okay.
Yeah, on my honorable mention list. So number 9 for me is from the night. Well, 88. It's from 88. Uh, Forever Young.
Great song.
It's similar to a Bob Dylan song, but I think it was so similar that ultimately Rod Stewart agreed to share royalty with Bob Dylan about it. It said "Forever Young" is a heartfelt song about his kids, but I think it went to number 12 was as high as it got. Number 3 at adult contemporary, but it's a different Rod Stewart. I mean, back in the back in the 70s, Rod Stewart would never be singing something like this. Forever Young. He was singing about hot legs. Do you think I'm sexy? Tonight's the night. But Forever Young. It was kind of different for me to see him doing something like this, but it was good. So Forever Young is my number 9.
That's a great song. I actually remember buying the cassette single back when we used to buy those things. The cassettes, I heard that on the radio, and I was like, "Oh, I got to have that." And it's like, it was a great song.
People don't remember cassette singles too well, do they?
No, we had to buy the whole album sometimes and suffer. And only one good song on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I bought a lot of one-hit wonder cassettes back then.
Yeah, same here. Ready for number 8? My number 8.
Number 8
is probably a sister song of my number 9. I think they're pretty close into it, and it's in "You're in My Heart." That's just a song that I think goes along with "You Wear It Well." I think they're on different albums, but that kind of like just a really good song written, and just from start to finish. I mean, it's just like those. I would think that was kind of the era that he was writing, some rocker songs and some slower songs. Probably one of the reasons why Paul Stanley wanted to give him "Hard Luck Woman." I mean, I can see him doing that song. I mean, that to me, I mean, I think it's great with Peter, but I mean, to hear Rod Stewart sing that song would have been great. And I think that kind of Paul got that idea kind of from hearing "You Wear It Well" or "In My Heart." I mean, I can just see him say, "Hey, that sounds like a Rod Stewart song." I kind of see him saying that.
I can definitely hear him singing "Hard Luck Woman." "You're in My Heart." This is going to be our first repeat because that's a little bit later in my list. But yeah, great song. But I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes.
Okay.
So my number 8, and we're back in the 80s again, and this is a remake of an Isley Brothers song. And he sings it with, I think it's Ronald Isley is the one he sings it with. "This Old Heart of Mine." He did the whole Motown song. I think that was with the Four Tops, and this song kind of reminded me of the Motown song. But "This Old Heart of Mine," man, like I said, something different from Rod Stewart, but then again, it fits him so well when he does like the Motown stuff. And Ronald Isley, for the longest, I'm gonna tell you this, I don't have a clue why, but for the longest time, I thought Clarence Clemens was the guy singing the song with him, but he was the one with Jackson Browne. And I was like, oh, I got to looking at it, I was like, Ronald Isley sang that. You're right. And I was still thinking it tonight. So I'm glad I looked again because I would have thought Clarence Clemens was singing "This Old Heart of Mine," but kind of similar sound. But "This Old Heart of Mine" is my number 8.
Rod Stewart kind of reminds me of like how David Coverdale does. He goes back and kind of redoes some songs because "This Old Heart of Mine," if you listen to the original one, it's very slow. And it's not like got that, that drum beat at the beginning. Those, I guess, are electric drums is what they were called. But I mean, that just hits it. And I mean, it's just so much better than the original, kind of like, in my opinion, because it's just slower and it's more up tempo with the, I mean, it was definitely 80s, so, I mean, I still love the song. I think it's great.
Oh yeah, yeah. You mentioned Coverdale. I when they hit the big time with the '87 album, and then you go back, of course, when Here I Go Again took off, and then they started playing the older version of Here I Go Again, and I'm listening to that, and I'm like, instead of a drifter, they're talking about like a hobo, and I'm like, what the heck? This is drifter sounds better than hobo in Here I Go Again song, but yeah. Yeah, I like the Coverdale, like what you said about Coverdale, but I was a big Whitesnake fan. So,
Oh yeah, look,
number
my first
number
concert.
7, your first concert.
Yeah,
Who was the opening act?
Bad English, Slip of the Tongue.
Oh, the slip. See, was that the first super band when Whitesnake had?
Bad
What was it? It
English,
had.
Jonathan Cain.
No, I'm
Uh,
talking about Whitesnake had Vi. They had
yeah,
Vandenberg. They had because what's
Tommy
his name? He
Aldridge.
left to go to Def Leppard. Yeah, Tommy Aldridge, and
Yeah.
then Rudy Sarzo playing bass. Yeah,
Oh, you're
that
talking
was a
about
super band.
Whitesnake being the
Bad
first
English was
super
a super
band.
band.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I got to meet him and Tawny
Yeah,
Katane.
that was.
They were really cool. It's back when Tawny
Oh,
Katane had her hair
really?
blonde. Yeah, she had her hair blonde.
Oh,
She was friends with one of my buddies' mom, and they got us backstage. And of course, no cameras back then, but I still got my shirt signed by her and stuff like that. I was sad to see her pass away. She was really, they were both cool. They were shorter than I thought. Like
yeah.
David Coverdale, without big hair, you think they're much taller, but no, he wasn't.
That's pretty awesome there.
Yeah.
So, what is your number 7?
My number 7 is a cover, but it's one that he does very well. It's because I know I'm losing you. The Temptation song that he did off, I believe it was off Every Picture Tells a Story. And that's kind of rock and rod on that one. That's kind of, I don't know if, I think Ron Wood played with him on that album. And that's back when you do a solo album, but your band still played behind you. And I think the Faces were still kind of backing him up. At least Ron Wood was. But I'm not a big jam fan. I don't like a lot of jams, but I love it when the drums kick in, and that's just a great song. And I just like it when it kicks it and just takes you there. I think it's a great cover. Great, and he made it his own, like he does a lot of his covers.
Yeah, he likes to do a cover, and that's yeah. I see that's one I'm not familiar with. I'm gonna have to check that one out. This is why I like doing this. I'll find it if I can find something I need to check out like this, and I'm gonna check this out as soon as we get off of here. But I know I'm losing you, so
Yeah,
I'll check that out.
that's
My
on
number
a
7.
Picture Tells a Story.
Yeah, my number 7 is probably really what one of the big songs in the I guess in the late '80s, early '90s when he did Unplugged. Of course, he's singing to his wife. The model, what was her name? Rachel.
Rachel Hunter.
Gosh, what was her last name? Rachel Hunter. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have I told you lately? And the Unplugged version to me is better than the actual single version because he acts like he gets a little emotional there at the end, and whether that's real or not, I'm sure it was at the time, but yeah, and this was one of those songs that, like I said, when I was riding in my friend's car with his mom, this song was played over and over and over. I should have fatigue from it, but I guess it's one of those good memories I have. But have I told you lately that is my number 7, and that really, really got his popularity going back up again when he did that Unplugged album. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it launched him again.
Yeah, that Unplugged album was a great album. I think maybe after Kiss Alive or Kiss Unplugged. I think that's up there with that, but I'm partial to both. So
yeah. The Kiss Unplugged, Rod Stewart, and I like the Nirvana Unplugged. I don't like too much of Nirvana, but the Unplugged, I remember hearing it, and I had to go out and buy it after that. But I like the Unplugged version of some of Nirvana songs more than I did the actual plugged in versions, I guess, actual album versions of it.
it's a shame that the Aerosmith one never got released on CD. That's a great one when they did one.
See, I've never heard that one. I've never heard that.
It was never released. I think it was like a 30-minute special or something, but there's of course boots out there of it. But I mean, that's great. Okay.
All right. Number 6.
Number 6 for me is another kind of sister song to another band. And it probably has one of my favorite Rod Stewart quip, like kind of like sayings in one of his songs. And you hear this a lot in movies. It's called Stay With Me. And it was back with the Faces. And this one always kind of reminds me of that same kind of like their sister songs to Can You Hear Me Knocking by the Stones. And I'm not really sure if Ron was in the Stones at the time, but of course, Stay With Me came out earlier, but those always, when I hear either song, it kind of reminds me a lot. And both those songs are played in a lot of movies. And there's a part that always got with me with Stay With Me is one of the sayings he goes, let's go upstairs and read my tarot cards. I don't think Rod was talking about, his future, what the future held for him. I think that may have another meaning. But that's
I'm pretty sure.
Rod Stewart sayings that I like.
Especially Rod Stewart back then. Yeah, I think that's probably got some kind of other meaning there.
That's something Steven Tyler would have been proud of, that kind of quip that, now it's not kind of thrown in your face, but it's kind of like it left the imagination, and not just saying, hey, what I want to do,
Exactly. All right. So number 6 is Stay With Me. Number 6 for me is a repeat. You talked about it earlier. You're in My Heart. That's just I don't know, for me, one of his better songs. He said he wrote it when he was dating Swedish actress Britt Eklund, and they were together from 75 to 77. He said it wasn't totally about her. It could have been anybody I met in that period, and there were a lot of them. And he may have said that because she had a $12.5 million lawsuit filed against him, which her lawyers pointed out how she inspired some of his most successful music. Yeah. So he probably said, no, it wasn't just about her. He probably told her at the time, I wrote this song about you. And then when it wasn't totally about her. It could have been any other woman I met. And Rod Stewart, he had a lot of women back in the day, for sure. And probably still can pull some now.
Yeah, right. Well, he's slowing down he slows down. He's a little bit slower than he used to be, so who knows? Pre-internet.
Number 5, we'll get the top 5.
Number 5 is Hot Legs. I don't think there's much I got to say about that song, but it's a great song. It's just, it's a rockin' 70s song that the Stones could do. I can see Jagger doing this with Keith playing too.
Yeah, and it's a lot of those. It's a lot of those 70s Stewart songs that you could see that the Stones could do. Do you think I'm sexy? I think Jagger could probably pull that off. But
Miss You, just like Miss You.
I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to go back and look now that you were talking about Stay With Me. I'm gonna have to go back and look and see about that other song was Wood in there when the Stones did that. But
you got to think that him and Ron Wood were probably hanging out. Wood was in the Stones probably. I don't know if he was. I know he replaced. Was a replacement for Mick, but I'm sure they hang out. And, they like to drink. So hey, check this riff out, and hey, hey, I'll make that a song.
You think they drink? Just a little.
They probably still do.
I'm sure of it. I don't think that may not be one thing to slow down. You think about Keith Richards. The guy is like preserved. I think. Not facially, but at living. I don't know how the guy's still walking.
Yeah, he quits. He said he quit smoking with COVID and stuff. And I was like, wow, those cigarette companies are going to go bankrupt.
Yeah, this stock probably went down a lot after that.
You gotta love a guy that, like, he says that he went go looking for a coconut and he fell out of a tree, and that's what almost kills him. Not all the drugs he did, but a coconut. He fell out of a tree and had to have surgery. mean, it was a coconut, not heroin, a coconut.
Not heroin or anything like that. But you look at guys like him. You look at Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, the guy probably should have been dead 2 or 3 times. Then from drugs, there's no telling how many times he should have been dead from drugs. But then he gets in a 4-wheeler accident that almost takes his life, and it's Ozzy Osbourne, Keith Richards. I don't think.
And you look at Keith Richards, and you talk about who the rock star is and stuff like that. He's the one that's been married to the same woman. He's not like having kids at 60 like Mick. He's been with the same woman all this time. He's like the Howard Stern. You think Howard Stern's is deviant, but he's with one. It's always the ones they think are the most deviant are the ones that make the best husbands, I guess.
Exactly. So number 5 for me, and we're going to the 80s again. Downtown Train. Another song that you wouldn't think Rod Stewart would be doing when you saw him back in the 60s, but it kind of mellowed, or 70s, excuse me. You kind of mellowed out. Tom Waits wrote the song, and it actually did. This is another cover song, but Rod's cover went to number 3. I don't think Tom Waits got that high. It was his highest charting song in 11 years in the United States. He received a Grammy Award nomination for it. It was on the 4-disc Storyteller anthology released in November '89, and then Downtown Train was released in March 1990. But yeah, I mean, Rod had a habit after, I guess it got good to him in the 80s when he saw, okay, I can sing some of these slower tunes and get a hit out of it. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to do a little bit more. And he did a good job with it, because there's a lot of these that are on my list. But I guess I'm a sucker for a ballad. But Downtown Train is my number 5.
That's one of we got one on a repeat, because you got one of mine. And it'll be a little bit, I'll tell a little bit more about that one. But my next, we're down to number 4, correct?
Right. Number 4.
My next one is another remake of his, all like, how Coverdale was with Whitesnake. And this too is off the Unplugged album. And if you ever heard the Unplugged album, you hear him and Ron Wood. That's when Ron Wood's playing with him, and they're talking about how young the band is. When the song came out, they weren't even born. And it's the cover. It was a big radio hit, probably right up there with Have I Told You Lately? Reason to Believe. That is just that the original is just not as good as the Unplugged version, in my opinion, because it's got more energy, the Unplugged. But it's funny. He's talking about his wife was only 1, because she's younger than him and stuff. But I mean, it's just a great song, and it's one of those songs that they played the heck out of, but I never got tired of. And I actually did a speech for it when I was in college in speech class. We had to play a song and bring a CD back when we used to have CDs. And did that. I actually got an A on that paper. The professor was actually impressed. It's
wow.
Like, it's not all about Kiss and Metallica for you, is it? Like, no, not all. And that's it. Reason to Believe. I think it's one of his best songs, and I just love that song. I mean, it's just a great song. It's about kind of getting your heart broken. It's just who hasn't had that happen?
Oh yeah, and you go through something like that, and that's all you want. I went through it. As a kid, and all I wanted to do was hear. I was looking for songs like that, and Reason to Believe. And I'm ashamed to say I know this, but Wilson Phillips actually covered the song.
Really?
Yes, I'm ashamed to say I know that.
There ain't nothing wrong with China Phillips. There ain't nothing wrong.
No. But yeah, they do because I can remember hearing the Rod Stewart version, then listen I think it was on the radio. They may have released it as a single, but it came on, and I was like, who is singing this Rod Stewart song? And it was Wilson Phillips. But nothing wrong. You're right.
No judging here. I had that CD back in the day. I mean,
I had what was it? I had the cassette for Shadows and Light. But I didn't mind Wilson Phillips. I didn't mind looking at Phillips.
There's a lot worse out there.
Yes. So we're number 4. Well, okay. Before we go any further, where'd you go to college at?
I did some college at San Antonio College and UTSA in the University of Texas at San Antonio. So I identify with being a hook 'em horns. So I mean, we didn't have a football team back then when I went back in a covered wagon back in the day. But yeah, we got a good football team now and stuff like that. But UT and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, my brother, he moved. Look, my brother stayed and didn't go out a lot. And when the internet came along, it first came out, when we had it, all of a sudden he comes up and tells me, I'm moving to Texas in a month. And I'm like, no, you're not. And it was like some woman he had met online that he moved to Texas. He stayed there for a while. And since then, he worked at an airport, I guess the airport in Texas, one of the biggest one, whatever it is. I can't remember which one it is.
DFW.
But he worked at the airport for a while. And since then, that's been 20 some years. Yeah, about 20 years now. He's been a University of Texas football fan then. And I give him a hard time about it because I was like, every year he tells me this is going to be the year we win the national championship. And this wasn't such a good year for Texas Longhorn football. But
well, now you can kind of see the pattern with the UT and the Cowboys, kind of the same thing that we're very, very valuable, but we don't win, and you got to think like the Beck song "Loser" says, things are going to change for me. I know they will, because Cowboys and UT are always overrated, and it's like we drink the Kool-Aid, and I admit it. But you got to think someday it's going to change.
Yeah, look, you talked a little bit before we went on the air about Dallas, about how valuable they are, but you want a Super Bowl ring. Now we're getting a little bit off topic here, but that's okay. Do you think, and this is something that I've said over the years, do you think Jerry Jones would rather make $1 than win a Super Bowl ring?
Do I think? I don't think he does it on purpose, but he just can't help himself, because when every year that goes by, it proves that Jimmy Johnson was the brains of the franchise.
Yes.
And I love, and I think Jerry's a great businessman. If he would just stay in his owner box, like, the best owners, like, the ones in Pittsburgh and the ones in New England, and not go on the local radio stations and, talk about players and, stuff like that. I mean, there's a pattern since Jimmy left. Yeah, they won with Switzer, but that was Jimmy, because you had Aikman and the guys.
You had the nucleus there.
Jerry wants a Super Bowl, but I think he wants to be in control more. And it sucks for the fans, because, especially the ones that are stupid enough like me to stick around and be a fan. But I that's the way I am. That's the way I am.
I've been a Steelers fan. Look, and you'll see a pattern with that. I've been a Kiss fan since I was 5, and I've been a Steelers fan almost about the same time. As soon as I learned what a football was, most of my family were Redskins fans or Commanders fans, whatever you want to call them now. So I was kind of like the black sheep of the family but.
Oh, I remember
people come around to it.
I remember when I started being a fan and knowing football, I remember the Steelers too, because they always kicked our ass in the 70s. We had to sit there.
I've gone.
So, hey, I remember the Steelers.
Yeah. I've gone back and watched those Super Bowls, and man, they were, those two, I know you probably don't think so, but those two Super Bowls in the 70s were classic. So, got your number 4. We're on my number 4, and my number 4 is "Do You Think I'm Sexy?" And this was, like I said at the start, this was a song my mom was like, "You don't need to be listening to nothing nobody talking about. Do you think I'm sexy?" And it's probably like I said, it's a good thing she didn't know what Plaster Caster was about, and she didn't hear Take me. That I was getting ready to say, put your hand in my pocket, grab hold to my rocket. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's probably a good thing she didn't really listen that close to it. But do you think I'm sexy? Let me bring up some of these about this. One of his most controversial records, of course, it remains one of the most commercially successful by major rock artists into disco. He actually lost a plagiarism lawsuit that determined the chorus was lifted from a song called Taj Mahal by Brazilian musician Jorge Ben, and I may be saying this wrong, Jorge Ben Jor. I never knew that, but then the song itself is very simple, straightforward tale of a guy meeting a girl in a bar and heading home for some late night entertainment. Number one hit in the US and the UK, and he donated his royalties from the song to UNICEF. So, and I guess this was kind of like Rod Stewart's I Was Made for Loving You, because people were complaining that Rod Stewart was selling out the disco when he did this. But yeah, he was laughing all the way to the bank. Well, not really, because he donated all the proceeds to UNICEF. But yeah, I never knew about the plagiarism lawsuit. That's something I'm gonna have to listen to that, see if I can find that song and see what that sounds like. If that sounds like the chorus.
That one didn't make my list. It made my honorable mentions or whatever. But I got a couple of things about that song. There is a cover version by a band called the Revolting Cox. And they used to play it like in rock clubs and stuff like that. I actually like that version. I mean, I like the original one, but you ever get a chance, Google that one. I'm going to
write this down right now.
Revolting Cox, Do You Think I'm Sexy? That was like one of the first songs I ever downloaded off Napster before Lars took over. And another thing,
wow.
And another thing about the video, you ever watch VH1 when they had that thing called pop-up video? They had like little facts about the music. Well, this video, if you've seen it, the girl's pretty hot in the video. I mean, she's 70s hot. she's into him and her. Well, evidently, I think he was married at the time, but there is a thing saying the pop-up video that they left for a while together alone. So I'm just going to leave it out there saying, well, I guess she did think he was sexy, and stuff. So.
Yeah.
But I read that on there. And I was like, yeah, that's Rod Stewart. That's something he can do,
Yeah, he can pull it off. That's
he
fine.
Did. If you ever read his book, if you ever get a chance to read his book, it's great. I mean, it's a great book. He talks about the women, and it's just, I mean, I never know he was with Kelly LeBrock. I mean, it's just like, wow, weird science. That just blew my mind.
It seems like I remember hearing about that. That had to be back in the 80s. It seems like I do remember hearing about
Woman
that.
in Red.
It had to be short-lived. But let's see. So
number 3.
You're number 3.
Okay, mine's number 3. It's a repeat of what you had. It's called Downtown Train. Right. Now, Downtown Train came out like in the 90s, like you said. And I got a Christmas present from my mom back then. I was in high school of the box set, The Storyteller. And that's how I went back and I knew him there. But listen to that Storyteller. And Downtown Train was just a great song, and it was everywhere. It was the first song I got me a Pontiac Sunbird back when they used to make Pontiacs. That was my first car. That was the cassette single, another cassette single that I popped in and I jammed when I drove around the apartment complex. Hey, look at me, I can drive and stuff like that. But another interesting fact about Downtown Train, it was a big hit, but this song also kind of ended a friendship between him and Bob Seger. Bob Seger was going to do this song, and he does it. It's on his greatest hits. But Rod ended up doing it before him and released it before him. And Rod's talked about that, and he said that that Bob Seger, he knew what he was doing, He did it before me. Rod, of course, says it was like kind of an accident, but there's no accidents, they say. But that kind of ended their friendship. So that's a little tidbit that I don't know if you knew or not.
Who was it? And I'm trying to think. There's a song that somebody did, and I'm thinking Seger was singing background vocals and never got credited for it. But maybe I'm thinking about somebody else. I'm gonna have to. My mind. I'm getting old, so I'm still trying to get over the Revolting Cox. That's
an actual band. That is an actual band.
I'm
that's a
definitely
great
going to
cover.
look him up.
It's a great cover. I love it.
I will check that out. So, my number 3, another ballad, and this came off. I think it was Out of Order, 1988, and it was originally intended for as a country song. And a lot of people won't remember this lady, Barbara Mandrell.
Yes.
And then Stewart ultimately claimed the song for himself. And it was later covered in 2011 by another country artist, Sarah Evans. And My Heart Can't Tell You No. Great song. And this is just like, if you go through somebody cheating on you, you know what this is about. My heart can't tell you, because I had that happen too. And I had somebody actually trying to keep me on a string, and you really can't tell them no, but you need to. And then, it tells a great story. Yeah, people can relate to it, and he does a great job. Like I said, with these 80s and 90s ballads, he does a great job with them. But My Heart Can't Tell You No is number 3.
Can't you see the Kiss Crazy Nights lineup doing this song? I could see Paul doing this song.
Probably so.
Because it kind of like Another Reason to Live. I mean, it's like you can, I mean, it's like, it's kind of the same, those songs were kind of
same premise.
Like, you broke my heart, I'm going to get over you. That's how the 80s ballads were. And I can see Paul back in his, magnificent, I know people like rag on him for Hell to Hold You, but I mean, just his vocals. I mean, him doing this would be, they could trade songs with Hard Luck Woman, and Paul do this 80s Paul. I think it would be I always thought it was kind of a lot of that kind of this kind of stuff could be a Kiss song.
Yeah. Do you remember? I don't know if you, and I'm sure you've heard the demo. Paul did a bunch of demos, and they say it could have been for Cher, it could have been for the Kiss album, but I've never heard definitely. There's a song out there called When Two Hearts Collide.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was around the Crazy Nights era then. I don't know if that was a Crazy Nights demo or if it was something else, but that I do like Paul's, and I don't mind Paul's songs on Crazy Nights. I like that album, but it's not Kiss-like. They were trying too hard to be Bon Jovi but they were trying to adapt to the times. And but yeah, I could definitely see Paul singing My Heart Can't Tell You No.
Yeah.
So,
okay. All right.
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, it's kind of like, in his book, he talks about when he wrote, A Million to One. I mean, he denies he wrote that about Donna Dixon, but that's the whole story. That's the whole story right there, is that she left him for Dan Aykroyd. So that gives fat funny guys a chance like me. So, I'm glad about that. So, thank you, Dan Aykroyd. Thank you, Dan Aykroyd.
Paul Stanley. I mean, how far does it, Paul's got, of course, we didn't know about it and I know Zeus and Tom, if they listen to this, they'll be talking about, oh God, somebody's going to mention the ear. We didn't know about the whole ear thing and how he was so
conscious about
aware of it. And so, had such problems with it. But can you imagine how far that would have set him back then when Donna Dixon dumps you for Dan Aykroyd?
Well, it proves that she's not about, it doesn't, I know Dan Aykroyd, but Paul was rich too. And of course, they're two different guys. Two different things, but she obviously doesn't matter about looks. She probably likes to laugh, and Dan Aykroyd, Dan Aykroyd's funny. It's,
He is. He's a funny guy. He's laughing all the way with that when he's been married to Donna Dixon for all this time.
I went and saw the new Ghostbusters, and of course Dan Aykroyd makes an appearance, and I was wondering, hey, does Paul take his kids to go see a Dan Aykroyd movie? Does he? Just curious. And Paul's my favorite member, so don't give me crap. Okay,
Paul's all right. Paul, I think while I posted a little bit earlier today, he had put another post about riding his bicycle again. How great it was.
Well, he had that hip replacement, dude. He's got to keep it in check, dude. He's got to keep that hip replacement in check, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. As old as Paul is, what's he, 70 now?
Yeah, he's just turned 70, yeah.
And Yeah, he's going through a hip replacement and can ride for 25 miles, which I know everybody says it's a motorized bicycle, but you know,
Well, just don't go surfing with
yeah,
him. Read his book. Just don't go surfing with him.
Oh yeah. But Paul's okay. I mean, it's kind of like I like what Tom and Zeus say. You know, we can pick on them, but somebody outside the Kiss fans, they can't pick on them like we
But
can.
we pick on them
It's
like
like
they're
the
our
brother.
friends, like we rag on each other. That's what guys do.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're at the top two. What's your number two?
My number two is the song that he opens his shows with and has done for a while. Back then it was a cool song. Nowadays you may get arrested, called Infatuation. That song was one of the first Rod Stewart things that I saw kind of on my own when the MTV era, when he came out and everything. And of course, the girl he's looking at in the video is funny because he's stalking this girl. And it's like,
yeah, I remember
like creepy now, but back then it's like, hey, it's okay to stalk your girl, and stuff like that. But it was like, it was just a cool video because it was in black and white and kind of part of it and stuff like that. But it's just a kind of a rocking good song. And interesting fact about that song, Jeff Beck is in the video. And the history the history between Jeff Beck and Rod Stewart is that Jeff Beck always said that they had a love-hate relationship. He loves me and I hate him. So he still invites him over to be in the video. So in the video, Jeff Beck plays in it, and Rod Stewart said, like, everybody thinks that Jeff Beck plays that song because it's in the video. Kind of like the Paul Stanley solo in I Love It Loud. It's like he's not playing that solo. Well, there's really no solo in that song, but he's looking like he's playing it. So the video, that shows you how big MTV was, and everybody thinks that's the way it was. So that's and I looked at the set list. I saw it, and he's still opening with that song, and that's a good song to open up with. I think it's a great, great song.
Well, and back then, when you see a video like that on MTV and see the guy in there, of course you're going to think he's playing in there. You don't have anything. You can't go online and talk to everybody about is Jeff Beck in there, or have an argument online with somebody about Jeff Beck being on there. But yeah, I didn't realize he was in the video. I'm going to have to go back and watch that now. Infatuation, yeah, I don't think you could get by with it. There's a show there that we need to do. Top 10 songs that you couldn't get away with now. There's got to be. I know there's more than 10 out there, but we'll have to follow. Maybe the Revolting Cox sang one of those songs. I'm still getting over that.
I can't believe you've never heard of them. I mean, they're like an industrial band. I mean, it's. I think back in the day I had the 45 singles. Yeah.
I have never heard of them. I'm going to have to look them up. Definitely have to look them up. So my number two is one of the signature songs from the 70s. It's Maggie May. Wake Up Maggie. I think I got something to say to you. And as a kid listening to it, I was like, this song is okay, whatever. But the older I got, like I said, and it seems like the older I get, the more I appreciate the older music. Like, wasn't the biggest Eagles fan till the whole Hills freeze over. Now I'm a big Eagles fan. I love the Eagles. Rod Stewart is another one of those. And, of course I was pushed into Elvis. I mean, that was every week mama blasting Elvis records while she cleaned. And, but now I listen to a lot more Elvis than I used to, but Maggie May, looking at some of the stuff about Maggie May here. Let me bring it up here. Kicked his solo career into high gear, shot her around the world. Number one on the UK and US pop charts from the album Every Picture Tells a Story. Stewart's reputation as a gifted storyteller was established by the tale of a young man mesmerized by an older woman and slowly coming to terms with the likely impact of his obsession. The witty, respectful of Maggie and self-deprecating lyrics are a pop music masterpiece. It originally released as a B-side of Reason to Believe, kind of like Beth. However, the U.S. DJs quickly became more enamored of Maggie May, and it shot up the charts to number one. And one of the comments he made about it in 2015, he told the Wall Street Journal, at first, I didn't think much of Maggie May. I guess that's because the record company didn't believe in the song. I didn't have much confidence then. So yeah, Maggie May was really his first big hit, and I didn't realize it was on a B side of Reason to Believe, but it's kind of like the whole Kiss Beth thing, and they turned it over and they had a hit, and Maggie May was definitely a hit for Rod Stewart. So that's my number 2.
There's a couple things about that song. It's not on my list. I think it's just the fatigue of hearing it,
Right.
and stuff like that. My favorite version is the unplugged version because I just think it's just more kind of, getting going and stuff like that. And it's just really weird to kind of like a song that's like a year older than you. I mean, it's kind of like, did the world exist before me? And also exactly. I read an interview. I don't know if I saw a TV and I could be wrong about this, but that part where he has a background singer where the girl's going, it just ain't natural or whatever. You can hear the woman singing in the background. Supposedly that's Maggie May herself, the girl he wrote the song about. I don't know who it is, but supposedly I read an interview or saw something that they said that was her. I don't know if he was drunk saying that, but every time I hear that version, I go, that's Maggie. And it's like, you see how old Rod is and she's older. So she's probably a lot older, be kind of like, going blind, 93 and you're, I'm 93 and you're 73.
But don't you find it though, and you're like me, I hear you say it a lot. You like the unplugged versions of songs a lot more than you do the actual single or the actual versions of it. Like the Kiss Unplugged, World Without Heroes, great version unplugged. Yes, love it unplugged. And I'm all right with it. The regular single, like Sure Knows Something was a great song. That's probably about even with me as far as, but that's a great unplugged version. And then I Still Love You, which Paul just puts on a display. And we're getting into a whole Kiss world here we could talk about. But yeah, I Still Love You is a great version of unplugged. But there's a lot of unplugged songs. I'd rather hear the unplugged version than the actual version of.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Number one.
This is a song that kind of, it takes me back I always kind of viewed myself. And people call me clown, you try to have a sense of humor. I don't try to take life too seriously. It's probably why I'm not rich. And I just like to joke. I like to have a good time. And I tell people, you take things too seriously, and stuff like that. So my number one song, and it's probably one of my top 5 of all my favorite songs, is off. It was called "I Was Only Joking," and it's a kind of a slow ballad that's just it's just like it's like a relationship, but it's just you think things too seriously. I was just joking. Yeah. Blame it on the wine. In my case, Miller Lite. It's just chill. Life's short. Just And, I used to kind of get criticism for trying to be funny, but you realize that when you get to a while, you realize who you are. And I think that when he wrote this song, or if he wrote it, I'm not sure, but it's just definitely one of my songs that I'll have to listen to at least, once a month, you know what I mean? But, I don't get tired of it, but it's in my playlist. So that's my number one.
I Was Only Joking. I'm going to look and see if it's got any info on who wrote it. All right. While I'm looking at this, my number one, and I kind of hinted on at the start of the show when I said, yeah, Tonight's the Night is my number one. And this was another one of those songs that my mom was like, you can't be listening to this. And I was like, okay. I didn't know. I wouldn't have known the difference in it. One of the most blatant seduction songs in pop history. In the song, Stewart makes his intentions abundantly clear to a young virgin. The extended album version closes with erotic whispers and moans from Swedish actress Britt Ekland, who we talked about earlier. She appears in the company music video, but we never see her face. Radio stations frequently edit out the closing section of the song, deeming it too sexually explicit for airplay. The BBC initially banned it for the line, "Spread your wings and let me come inside." No other song is more firmly identified with Rod Stewart's reputation as a womanizer than Tonight's the Night. Yeah, they say his inspiration for this song was America's Today's the Day. Tonight's the Night spent 8 weeks at number 1 in the U.S. charts, number 2 on the adult contemporary. A live recording of Tonight's the Night is available on the Unplugged and Seated album. But yeah, I mean, he's pretty much. This may be one of those songs that you might not be able to get away with. You might, but you might not be able to get away with this today. Spread your wings and let me come inside is one of those lines that's pretty obvious what he's talking about there, but still a great song. Tonight's the Night's my number 1.
Yeah, that's another song that's kind of like Maggie May for me. Just kind of
fatigue.
Played a lot, but it's like I've heard versions where they take out the her talking in French, and I'm like, really? That upsets you? I mean, it's like I don't know. I can kind of see them being upset about it, but I don't know. It's tongue in cheek, and I don't know necessarily if he was saying that to be that way. I don't know if he was just take me in. I mean, I don't know. I'm giving the guy too much credit, I guess. I mean, he was after one thing, and that's what it was after,
Yeah, he would. That was that period of time where he was, he was feeling his oats, and he was trying to.
If you really want to hear Rod getting dirt, you really want to hear Rod listen to a song called "Dirty Weekend." That wouldn't have got away today. that's something that because "Dirty Weekend" off some guys blondes have more fun. We know what he's after.
Yeah, I mean, it's no doubt about it. And there were always rumors about Rod, but and it's National Enquirer crap, I'm sure. But Rod was definitely always after the women, no doubt about it.
I got a couple. I just want to mention that I think are great that didn't make my list. There's 5 of them. Can I mention those real quick?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'll just go through them. 1 of 5 is "Killing a Georgie," which I think that was a great song. "Every Picture Tells a Story," which I love the drum beat on there, where the part where it's a great one. Of course, "Do You Think I'm Sexy?" One of his 80s songs that you didn't mention, but I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention because you love most of your songs are off it. "Lost in You." That's a great song. That's just a hard kind of rocking song that most you can kind of see Rat doing back in the day.
Winger,
And my last one is up there is "Some Guys Have All the Luck." Now, one thing about this song, it's one of my favorite, and it was between that and "Rhythm of My Heart." We're kind of battling it out. "Some Guys Have All the Luck." The one thing about that is people didn't know that's a Robert Palmer song. And I saw Rod Stewart back when he was doing the what was that? What's the stuff with the standards and whatever? I had 4th row tickets, and I thought he was going to do a whole concert. I wasn't really paying attention. And it's like, well, we'll be half rock and then half standards. And I'm like, standards? What are standards? Of course, I'm 30 years old at the time. I'm thinking, I don't want to hear no standards. So we left after he did the rock stuff. But he dedicated that song to Robert Palmer, who had just recently passed away. And
right.
So have a luck. And of course, I listened to it. It's not as good as Rod's. But I just thought that was an interesting fact too. I don't know if you liked any of those songs I just mentioned.
Yeah, that I had I had on my honorable mention I had "Infatuation." Let's see, "Reason to Believe." I don't know if you remember this one, "Love Touch."
Yeah,
from the Legal Eagles.
Legal Eagles, yeah.
Yeah, and I had "Some Guys Have All the Luck." Young Turks. Let me ask you about Young Turks. Where does this title come from? I
have no idea.
You never hear it in the song.
No.
You hear "Young Hearts," but "Young Turks," that's going to be something I have to look up because I always used to, back in the day, listening on the radio, Casey Kasem. You listen to it every weekend to hear all the good songs, and you didn't have to wait as long. But I remember he used to, I always thought, well, the name of the song has got to be "Young Hearts," and then no, "Young Turks." Young Turks. I mean, what is the deal with Young Turks? I've got to find out about that. But that was one. "Rhythm of My Heart" was up here, and I don't know why I didn't think of "Lost in You," because that is one of my big songs. I'm terrible that I left that one out. I forgot
Now, can
all
you
about that song.
now knowing that album and stuff like that? Can't you see Poison doing "Crazy About Her"? I mean, it's just like she was hot,
Yeah,
young, beautiful. You mean Bret Michaels with the bandana? That's like a glam. I mean, that's the way a lot of the pop music was written. It was written with a rock edge. That's why it's not surprising that Michael Bolton wrote with Paul Stanley. You hear the stuff like by he does like Steel Bars. I can see, Steelheart doing that song. I mean, it's just a lot of the '80s
Steelheart.
stuff. A lot of the '80s stuff was like kind of like everything was kind of rockized back then. Is that a word? Is that like strategery?
Well, you just made it a word.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I think I love the '80s so much, because it was all had that kind of hard edge, but it didn't alienate the other ones. But that's a great album. Dynamite's a great song off that album. It's kind of heavy,
Yeah. Okay, and I'm pretty much sure your favorite era of music has got to be the '80s. Is that what you think? Yeah, mine too. There's nothing like '80s music for me. And my daughter, she listens to more of that than she does the new stuff today. Well, it's probably about 50-50, but she listens to a lot of it. She'll come up to me and say, "Oh yeah, Daddy, I'm already listening to that stuff." But which I'm proud of her for that.
That's good parenting, man. It's good parenting.
Yes, I've done one thing right. I'm looking at Young Turks, and it says the term Young Turk, which originates from the early 20th century secular National Reform Party of the same name, is slang for rebellious youth who acts contrary to what is deemed. The actual phrase Young Turks is, in fact, never heard in the song. The chorus is said centered on the phrase Young Hearts Be Free Tonight, leading to the song frequently being misidentified as Young Hearts or Young Hearts Be Free. So, yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Makes sense.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. So let's recap. Number 10 for you was Rhythm of My Heart. Number 10 for me was All for Love. Number 9 for you was You Wear It Well. Number 9 for me was Forever Young. Number 8 was You're in My Heart for you. Number 8 was This Old Heart of Mine. Number 7 for you, I Know I'm Losing You. And number 7 for me is Have I Told You Lately. Number 6 for you was Stay With Me. Number 6 for me was You're in My Heart. That was a repeat. Number 5 for you, Hot Legs. For me, Downtown Train. Number 4 for you was Reason to Believe. Number 4 for me was Do You Think I'm Sexy? And number 3 for you was Downtown Train. That was another repeat. We had 2 repeats. Number 3 was My Heart Can't Tell You No for me. Number 2 for you, Infatuation. Number 2 for me is Maggie May. And number 1, I Was Only Joking for you. And number 1 for me was Tonight. So, you guys listening out there, if this is going to set up, and I'm going to find a way to get to average it out to where we've got a top 10 seed out of both of our list, and then we'll go from there, and we'll have the Rod Stewart Music Madness Tournament on Twitter. 64 Rod Stewart songs battled out for number 1. And if you haven't done it, been on Twitter, if you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter, follow me on the fly, and you'll get updated. You get 7 days to vote for each round. Right now, we're finishing up the Motley Crue Music Madness Tournament, which is in the final 4 right now. Favorite Motley Crue song?
Me?
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard. All-time favorite's got to be that's got to be Looks to Kill.
That's a tough one, ain't it?
Yeah,
Looks to Kill.
Got to be Looks to Kill or Home Sweet Home, one of the two. That's a tough one.
They're both, and I'm trying to pull it up right now. I think they're both in my final 4. I think I've got it over here though. Hold on one second. But yeah, we're gonna do this for the top 10, and like I said, we'll come up with a way to seed it using both of our list. Average it out.
How did the Karabi album do? That was a great album. I love that album.
I was kind of disappointed that didn't do as well. We have one make it to to the second round, and that was pretty much it. And I think that was, let me see, I'm pulling it up right now. Come on, computer. But yeah, I'm like you about the Karabi album. If that, people always say, well, that's not Motley Crue. No, but if you had took that album and put another band's name on it, everybody would have loved that album. It kind of got off slow to me, but the more I listened to it, I love Misunderstood, Hooligan's Holiday, Smoke the Sky, Poison Apples. I love all this song. It's like you said, it's a great album, but this thing is being slow.
It's funny. Speaking of Motley Crue, I'm telling people I'm going to go see Rod Stewart, and they said Cheap Trick's opening, and they're like, well, that's kind of a weird pairing. I remember the first album when Vince came back, I saw Cheap Trick open up for Motley.
Really?
Generation Swine. And
that was Generation Swine when he came back.
Cheap Trick, I think they're known for like doing different set lists. They did like their rock set list. They didn't play any like the Flame. And of course, I didn't really know Cheap Trick that much, so I was all disappointed they didn't play the Flame.
Okay, this is the Elite 8 matchups we had on the Motley Crue one. Kickstart My Heart versus Looks to Kill. Shout at the Devil versus Livewire. Home Sweet Home versus Girls, Girls, Girls. And then Too Young to Fall in Love versus Wild Side. And looking, let's see. I'm going to look to make sure what song from the 94 album made it to the second round. Hooligan's Holiday made it to the second round. That was the only one off that album that made it to the second round. And that lost to Knock 'em Dead Kid. But this should be interesting to see with the Rod Stewart. So this should be interesting to see how this goes.
I know it's kind of, when closing, kind of an unpopular opinion. The 97 remake of Shout at the Devil is better than the original.
You think so?
I do. I don't know. Shout at the Devil, I remember when it came out and stuff, and I was like, they were trying to be Kiss and stuff when I heard that song. But Looks to Kill, that's in Livewire. I love that. But Shout at the Devil, they're trying. That's probably my least favorite song on the album. They were, and they did that thing about, the guitar going into the ceiling. And the way I grew up, they took that seriously. I was like, they also tell you they were on cocaine. So anything can go to the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Shout at the Devil it's okay, but I like the original, the new one, because it's kind of more of a, I guess, grungy type, grittier stuff. I love Generation. It was. I love Generation Swine. I think it's a great album. And it's not a great Motley Crue album, but it's a great album.
Yeah,
it's a great grunge album.
What do you think about you think the original Home Sweet Home or the remake for the Decade of Decadence song?
I hate the remake just because the keyboards are not as heavy, and there's that part where Tommy at the end hits that cymbal, and it's just like that's like one of the best parts of the song when he hits that cymbal at the end. And it's like when they played that one, and it was like a real cheesy keyboard. And it was like, Beavis and Butthead were playing on it. It wasn't Motley. It was like they were trying to 90 it up to make it, that's one of the worst remakes, I think. It's a great song, but there was a band that did it. It was a great, I think Carrie Underwood did it, and she did a great version, or a country version.
She did.
It was better than a remake that Motley did.
There's another country artist recently, a guy that did it, and I cannot think of his name. And Motley was actually in the video because Vince came up and sang on stage with him. And this is before the Abominable Snowman stuff. But
but in Vince's defense, though, he's never been good live, even when they were younger. Like on the Decade of Decadence, they got the live version of Kickstart My Heart. That was the early night. It wasn't. There's just some people that can do it, but I'm into the music and I'm being entertained. I can't sing to save my life, but that's not a deal killer for me. I like Motorhead. Lemmy couldn't sing. He sang good for Motorhead, but it's just like, I mean, if there's more enough to entertain me, I'm okay. But I've always looked at the video thing. Karabi can sing live. Karabi's great live.
Oh, Karabi, yes. Karabi can put it on. I've got a nephew. I think he just turned 20, but he has tickets. He's had tickets for the last 3 years to the big stadium show because he is a diehard Motley Crue fan. And we keep talking back and forth. He was like, everybody's saying Vince should hang it up. Vince should hang up. I said, just don't worry about that. Just when he gets out there with Motley Crue, he'll be fine.
That's the way I feel about Paul. I mean, I know he's not what he used to be, but I mean, he's 70 years old. It's like,
exactly.
You kind of look at LeBron James. You look at LeBron James. It's like, well, he's 38 and he's got a lot of miles on those tires, but it's still LeBron James. It's still Paul Stanley,
And think of how many nights a year Paul Stanley was singing for the last, almost 50 years now. Think of how many nights he was doing that. I mean, it's crazy. You're going to have a letdown, and think how bad it would have been if it had just been him singing instead of him and Gene singing, trading off. But
I thought Gene.
Paul's not what he used to be, but I don't have a problem with that.
I thought Gene was just. I mean, I still think he sings good. Like I saw Kiss in September in Austin, and of course I had to wait a year for it, but I took it all in because I knew this is the last time I'll probably see him because I ain't got cruise money, to go see and stuff like that. But it's like
me neither. Yeah. I would love to go on a cruise, but I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah, and I've seen him 15 times. I mean, had a good run. I know some people have seen him like 60. It's like, wow.
What was your first Kiss show?
Hot in the Shade, 1990. I saw it was Kiss, Slaughter, and Faster Pussycat.
Oh,
and I remember,
man,
I remember seeing the show, and "I Stole Your Love" is my favorite Kiss song of all time, and it was so loud. I was like, had to take myself. What song? I couldn't. It was so loud, I couldn't. And I went full circle. Austin's about 45 minutes away, so I saw Kiss in Austin in '90, and I saw them last year in Austin. So I figure, hey, that's been a good run. It's
been a good run. Didn't they open up that Hot in the Shade with "I Stole Your Love"?
Yeah, it was so loud that I couldn't understand. I was like, I just back before YouTube and stuff, and of course you go on YouTube now, and that concert there, I was there, and I had 7th row. I wore makeup, and I got a guitar pick from my buddy wore Gene, and I wore Paul, and I got guitar pick from him and Bruce and Gene. I got them put up with my comic books. So yeah, I got to. That was probably my second concert after Whitesnake. I was about 18 then, so I was I'll be 50 this year in April. So I got
you're a little bit older than me, maybe about.
Yeah, I got into Kiss in Asylum. Asylum was my first Kiss album, and it was that was 80s Kiss is my thing. I mean, I have that. Yeah. See, people talking about the Animalize Uncensored. I got that ripped on my iPhone. I listen to that like every week.
Like I said, I was into Kiss when I was like 5. My older cousin, pulled out Destroyer and showed me the album cover, and I was like, and then you hear the songs, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So then it was, my mom has pictures of me at Christmas and Easter posing with a Kiss album each time. I mean, it was like, that was the thing. I had to have Kiss. I had to have Kiss. You had the Kiss, the Halloween costumes, all the toy guitar, which, I messed that up. I wish I decided to be Ace Frehley one day playing a live too, and put a smoke bomb in a plastic toy guitar, and you know what happens next. Yeah. So
I didn't get into Kiss. I didn't get into Kiss till my teenage years. Back in the 70s, I was more into $6 Million Man and Jacqueline Smith, Charlie's Angels. So that was.
I was a Star Wars freak back then. I went, and stuff like what else was it that we used to talk about? Mom and Daddy took us to see Grease at the movie theater, and I was like, now I'm looking at it because I let my daughter watch it when she was younger, and you
watch it now, like, oh my god,
whoa, yeah,
but it had Olivia Newton-John, and that's just.
I fell in love. I fell in love with Olivia Newton-John as soon as I saw her. She was most beautiful lady I'd ever seen at that time when I was a little kid. Like I was like, she is gorgeous. And but
actually, a funny story. I went with some friends to see her probably about 4 years ago before COVID, and they're like, "You want to go?" I'm like, "Yeah." And you know who she has playing with her? One of the guys from Danger Danger is like her guitar player. I don't know who it was, but she mentioned his name, and of course you Googled it up. And like, hey, that's so and so in Danger Danger. I don't know if he plays with her now, but he was a musician in Danger Danger, and it's like, oh, that's a dude from Danger Danger.
Yeah, Tom and Zeus will love to hear that as much as they love Danger Danger. Hey, man, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this. We got to bring you back on again and do this again.
Yes.
I could talk. We've turned a Rod Stewart episode into a Kiss episode all of a sudden in the 80s music, but we definitely have to get on here and talk some more. We could talk 80s music and stuff like that. And,
hey, man, if you ever need a co-host, I'll put my application in, dude, and I'll send it right to you, man.
Well, you got an open invitation right now.
Sounds good.
Even if you're a Cowboys fan. Now, if you were a Ravens fan, that would be revoked. But,
yeah, and if you were an Eagles fan, we wouldn't be talking either. So I guess I feel the same way.
That's right. Thank you so much, Guy, for being here tonight, and really enjoyed it. And we'll have to be teaming up on some people in the shout out Loudcasters room. But maybe we'll get a little bit of publicity in the Loudcasters room for this episode. I told Tom and Zeus, I said I got a fellow Loudcaster coming on the show this week, so they'll be looking for it. But thank you so much, guys. It's been a blast, and definitely do it again sometime.
Yep,
all right, guys. That's been our top 10 Rod Stewart songs. You guys have a great night. Hold on. Hold on.